So ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new DCU discussion series video. A little while back now, we had the DC Studios DCU press address, or whatever you want to call it, the slate refresher, rather. And out of that, clearly, there was quite a bit to talk about. Not like mega, crazy, insane updates where you've had, I don't know, World's Finest announced, even though we can definitely speculate about World's Finest in this video. But it's enough of a conversation, or should I say enough of a conversation came out of that for us to do another one of these. And we're gonna nerd out about it in a typical Boba rambly video. So when you're seeing this, it's scheduled to go up when I'm on my honeymoon. To those of you who may be like, but Boba, didn't you already go on a honeymoon? Not really. I mean, we went on what is known as a mini moon immediately after the wedding for like a few days, like max, because, you know, most of the time these days you can't find the time off work, at least my wife couldn't, and then like, let alone afford a proper honeymoon. But now we're going on a proper honeymoon, and I wanted some content to go up, so you're going to be seeing a few videos like this, but this is one I would have wanted to get out anyway. So with that being said, guys, I hope you go on to enjoy this video. Content will be going back to normal for those of you who may be like, for all I know, by the way, you might be like, hey Boba, why are you uploading a DCU discussion series video when we've just had this crazy news about lanterns? Well, I'm away. If anything like that is happening, I do apologize, but for now, you've got a few Boba videos like this, and I hope you enjoyed them. And if you do, leave a like on the video. I'd greatly appreciate that, and I am so sorry for such a long intro. But getting into question number 1 here from Austin Daniels 4827. What is going on with Wonder Woman? I'm not worried yet, because obviously the first DCU movie isn't even out yet, but at least an acknowledgement of Diana would be good. I think it could be possible that Gunn is waiting for Paradise Lost to film before announcing a solo project, which I think Paradise Lost is coming sooner than people think. Early 2027 is my guess. And Diana could make an appearance. Either it ends with her birth, or Diana is the one who's telling the story, or something along those lines. Penny, for your thoughts. Oh man, that just reminds me of that like bad lip reading, Penny, for your thoughts, like little Yoda. If you know, you know. But yes, if you guys have heard me speak in the past like month, ever since the DC Studios press address thing, I have a bit of frustration, and I don't know if my frustration is misplaced because I wasn't in the room, and I don't know, I have no idea what goes on behind closed doors with all those journalists there who were invited to the HQ of DC Studios in front of James Gunn and Peter Safran. But, if I was there as a reporter, and again, maybe they did ask this, but maybe they're not allowed to talk about it, and maybe it's pointless to talk about it if they wouldn't give an answer about it. But given that it was basically a minimal update, more of a refinement to the slate, with some like surprise announcements or acknowledgements rather, such as the Titans thing. The Peter accidentally let it slip that, I think that news is already out there, and Guns was then like, oh, it's out there kind of now. Things like that. Great, awesome. But why did nobody ask about, hey, I know you might not want to get too into this, Gun, and obviously they would word it in way more of a professional way than what I'm saying off the cuff right now, but it's like, hey, you've got plans for Superman, you've got plans for Batman, evidently, with The Brave and the Bold, and also, as a good reporter, I've noted down when you have seemingly indicated when we could roughly see Diana in the DCU, and I'll revisit that in just a second, by the way. Is there anything you can tell us? Is she in the cards in the next couple of years or something like that, or without confirming an actual project? Just anything, James Gunn. Again, I'm saying this so verbosely, but a reporter could have asked something, is what I'm trying to get the point across with regards to Wonder Woman. But nothing at all came out about Wonder Woman out of that whole DC press refresher, other than Gunn just, generalizing something about the slate, saying Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And that's a bit strange to me, because they are the diamond characters of DC. I understand that James Gunn has a big interest in making, more obscure characters or lesser known characters, even from that of the general audience. Well, primarily the general audience into the popular characters of tomorrow. But still, he's put focus on Batman and Superman, so Wonder Woman, you would have to think she would be kind of a priority within the first few years. And I agree with what Austin said here, where he says, look, I get it. The first DCU movie isn't even out yet. No, it isn't. I think we all do, like, on all kinds of fronts here, need to hold our horses with certain things. But this is one that is strange. And the reason why I said I wanted to revisit something, because I've got a bunch of tabs here, and bear with me while I find it. There is something, because you guys know me, when it comes to, like, stuff that I'm really interested in, my memory banks feel like bloody photographic. So I do have receipts from James Gunn talking about Wonder Woman. And I admit things change, right? But we're going to talk about other things that have seemingly changed coming out of this slate refresher in this video. Back when Gunn, was more active on Twitter rather than Threads, even though now on Threads he's a lot less active, but you can't really blame the guy. He's in, like, the editing process for Superman, the marketing, and the editing process for Peacemaker. Anyway, stay on track, Boba. We had a report or a re-report, if you will, from Home of DCU on Twitter on January 4th of 2023. So this is even before, guys. Even before the official announcement of Gods and Monsters. Anyway, point is, Variety reports Wonder Woman will not appear in the first 3 years of the DCU at all. So that's key, right? So when they say at all, that means at all. Like, not even a mini bloody cameo, like, to liken to that of, like, the Batman cameo in Creature Command. Like, you're getting nothing in the first 3 years. After that, yeah, maybe. Yeah, obviously, at some point in time, right? But James Gunn responded to this user saying, hey, James Gunn, please debunk this one crying face. And he says, I hereby debunk it only because it's not true. So with that reply, that means he is basically saying Wonder Woman will appear in the first 3 years in the DCU. And it's not the case that Wonder Woman will not appear in the first 3 years of the DCU at all. Now, I do need to bring up that I don't want to get everyone's hopes up because, we're not even in properly the first 3 years of the DCU. We've had one project release. So if you start the clock from that date, technically speaking, Creature Commandos, we haven't had a ton of projects out yet. So, you could argue she could appear in the next couple of years, right? But, this is why I don't want to get people's hopes up, Gunn could have been really truthful here in saying that he debunks it, because guess what? She's already appeared in that future vision that Cersei had, where you had the Justice League and other heroes dead because Princess Alana Rostovic conquered the world, right? And killed those heroes. So technically speaking, Wonder Woman has appeared in the first 3 years of the DCU. So for Variety to say that she wouldn't appear in the first 3 years at all, technically he was right? He's like, well, I hereby debunk it because she's appeared in Creature Commanders. But you have to admit, all while the guy wouldn't have been lying there, I think a lot of us, and sure, this may be more of an us problem, but would take what he said, I hereby debunk it, meaning that she will appear in the first 3 years, to mean that she will appear in a bit more of a significant way. Now, sure, that doesn't necessarily mean her own project, but, you could argue that, as I've spoken about on live streams and people have mentioned to me, I would like to see the Justice Society or some kind of reference to them in the Sergeant Rock movie, or while I understand you don't want to steal the thunder of it being a war movie, but it's still in the DCU, right? So you have to think, with metahumans having been around for a while, even G.I. Robot in World War II, who knows what you could have in there. And just like the Justice League animated movie or whatever it was with Wonder Woman in it, it'd be so cool. Like, you could easily actually have Wonder Woman in it, right? Like, you could. But again, you don't want to steal the thunder. So all I'm saying is, I think a lot of us were hoping that we would actually have Wonder Woman in more of a prolific appearance than just being on a spike alongside Superman and Batman in that future vision. So I guess what it comes down to at the end of this ramble is, are we still going to see Wonder Woman in the next couple of years? I guess that goes back to what Austin Daniels is saying here with regards to Paradise Lost. I mean, maybe you could argue that because I have, Paradise Lost is a prequel, but I have also, a couple of years ago, like many people have entertained, what if Diana is narrating it? But the reason why I've always been put off from my own suggestion there, just like yours, is that would they really introduce the DCU's Diana, like, actress just so minimally at first through something likened to that of a narration? Maybe you get to see her first and she opens up like an old kind of Wonder Woman Historia book, right? But in universe. And it starts off with her telling the history of the Amazons to her protege. You know, that'd be super cool. That could be a way to do it. You never know. But that's where the whole debate comes up that I've been reconciling with in my own head myself. Like, what's the best way to do this with DCU Batman? Should you wait for the prestigious premiere, like debut rather, of his own movie, The Brave and the Bold, instead of introducing him in Clayface first? Like, that would be cool, but would it rob from some of the novelty of having your own impactful debut movie? Because David Corenswet Superman, right? He's getting that. He didn't appear in Creature Command. I mean, technically in The Vision, but do you know what I mean? He's getting his main punch debut, boom, in your own theatrical movie. Is that the better way to go? Is that the better way to go for Batman? Is that the better way to go for Wonder Woman? But if that's the case for Wonder Woman, man, like, I don't think we'll be seeing Wonder Woman in a movie format until at least well after Brave and the Bold. So I guess the way for me to ultimately look at this is that Wonder Woman would have to appear in some other project first, and maybe Paradise Lost is a way to do that. But she obviously wouldn't be a character in the main drama of the show because it is set before the birth of Princess Diana, as we know. So yeah, I don't know. I know, like, circling it back around on what I was rambling about at the beginning, I feel like there was other questions that they asked where they were too coy to answer. Like, you know, with regards to this next project that James Gunn is writing, he was like, let's just say it's, it's connected. You know, it's connected to Superman. So he was being asked questions that he didn't fully want to answer just yet. So why couldn't they do that about Wonder Woman? However, up next, related, very much so related here from Buster Barnes, he says, I think everyone needs to slow down and take a breath with regards to having not heard about Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, etc. All of these heroes appeared in DC movies in 2023 with their previous actors, so I do think some breathing room is required, especially with The Flash, which pains me to say is he's my favorite hero, considering how that movie went. Also, we simply haven't even seen the first DCU live-action movie yet, so I'm sure if that's a success, we'll get more news. We can assume a Justice League movie is planned for latest 2031 as part of the 6-year plan, so we'll definitely see our favorites by then. If we don't hear anything about Wonder Woman by 2027, then I will also be confused and concerned, but I think getting angry about it now is a bit of an overreaction. We have to remember that this isn't the first DC-connected cinematic universe, and we need to realize some of the early decisions they make will be affected by how the old universe ended. And I do really agree with the sentiments of that message. I know it's different strokes for different folks, for everyone. People will look at this slate, they have different feelings. You know, I've been seeing various comments for ages about, you know, we're getting a Clayface movie. Clayface before Aquaman, before The Flash. Clayface before Wonder Woman. And, like, when you put it on paper like that, I get what they're trying to say. However, I think it would be a mistake just equipping the Diamond characters, doing, you know, the Hollywood thing, never doing anything new. And, you know, it sounds contradictory of me to say that because they're doing Superman again, right? But they're still breaking the wheel, the mold a bit. Now, you may view that as to the detriment, but my point is, we are getting movies for movies appreciation and the art of movies, hopefully, to make a good movie, a quality movie. So they are putting in other projects there, like Sergeant Rock, like maybe a lesser popular, like Supergirl's popular, but many of you might be like, nah, we need Batman before Supergirl. But they're doing Sergeant Rock before, you know, The Flash or Aquaman. Yes, they are, because that might work. As Peter Safran and James Gunn said, it's okay to not have a movie for every single person out there. They want to just make really good movies, all within the umbrella of this cinematic universe. So I know not everyone is really thrilled and excited by the slate, But I can see, or I like to think that I can see the vision that they're going for. And how, look, you are getting Superman out the gate, right? It's been long enough since we've had a Superman movie. If you exclude BVS, it was Man of Steel. It's been that long, right? So I can ramble about this forever, but what I'm trying to talk to you guys about is that I think they're seeing the long-term success over rather than the short-term, let's just bash out a Superman, a Batman, a Wonder Woman, a Flash, a World's Finest, a Justice League movie. Or within 4 years. I know if they announce some kind of lineup like that you would have so many more fans online being like, oh my God, this is amazing. DC is back, baby. They've got Batman, Superman, like Martian Manhunter. They've got a Flash team up with frickin', I don't know, like Superman and Batman movie coming out. They've got a Trinity Project Part 1 and then a Part 2 before they get to the Aquaman movie that leads into the... But really, if you think about it, guys, I don't think that would be good. I really don't. As I always like to say at this point, I don't know if these movies are going to be good. I know that they're going into it with the best intentions and the best preparation. Like, Gunn has gone on about, that kind of, hey, we're only going to do this if it's like, enough. He's gone on about it enough and then some. So, on paper, it's got the best preparation, the best intentions, and they want it to be a success. And all of these projects might not be up to what you want. You might want Wonder Woman straight away. I don't know what the true reason is. Obviously, it could be a similar situation to what Gunn said about The Flash. They're pausing development on any kind of idea with The Flash for now. But you could see a Wally West Flash in the Titans and an Aguirre project, for example. And then that could allude to Barry Allen still being out there. But this story isn't about him. It's about the Titans. But you get some kind of cool world building there. And also, as Buster Barnes says, we are leading up to, as reported by Variety or Vanity Fair, whoever it was, they reported that Gunn did say that there would be a culmination event, some kind of event that is, if there's going to be any comparison, something to liken to that of an Avengers, right? An Endgame thing. So you would have to think that Diana isn't just going to be laying there on the beach of frickin' Themyscira, just like, oh, I see that disaster going on over there, but, I don't bloody care because, I don't care. You'd have to think she would get involved. But to be fair, it is fair to guess that what if that's the first time we see her? But I think that would be kind of bad. This is why I think maybe the way forward is if you do possibly have a movie like Clayface where Batman could appear, you could do something similar with Wonder Woman. But this will bring me into larger speculation about what James Gunn's next project is. That's his favorite project, and it has been for months, that nobody knows about is. And it's making me think that what if whatever he's planning could maybe be an answer to the questions that we're having about characters like Wonder Woman and Batman and their debut in the DCU. Because another thing to bear in mind is that projects that are ready can come out of left field and be greenlit into production, and the best examples of that is Clayface and also Supergirl. Supergirl was obviously always planned to be a part of that lineup, and it was in that lineup towards the end, but because that script was ready and it was so good, they're like, well, we have no opposition to having Supergirl as one of the first movies in the DCU, and instead of it maybe initially having been 2027 in our perhaps initial projections, we're going to have it the summer after Superman. So honestly, if Gunn writes something, and he's a quick writer as we know, with this mysterious project, which we might talk a little bit more about in a minute, and it's ready, he might put that as the third or fourth movie entry in the DCU, where we would have thought initially that would have been The Authority. So up next now from Bobu90Moss. Hey Boba, love your videos. Question: do you think it's possible that Hal Jordan's Green Lantern ring is older than Guy Gardner's ring, because Hal is a Lantern legend? Maybe the Guardians changed the rings over time. Oh, abso-mother-frickin-lutely. Absolutely. This is no question for me. Hal Jordan is a Lantern legend who has been doing his thing in the DCU for a good couple of decades at this point. Kyle Chandler is 59. years old. And as I keep saying, that doesn't dictate the character's age. Like, genuinely, Hal could be, if they showed his driving license or whatever in the show, he could be like 49. You know, it doesn't have to be the age he is in real life. But despite that, you know, he's had his ring, and you can even tell on his ring it's a bit more of a worn version, whereas Guy Gardner's, sure, this could just be ring design difference, is much more dark and brand new. Plus, I just vibe that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is more of a new douchey kind of Guy Gardner, you know, type Green Lantern compared to the Lantern Legend. You know, and Lantern Legend means all sorts of things, but on the baseline premise, I think it means he's a Lantern Legend amongst lanterns and the Guardians, but also maybe even to some people on Earth. Again, I wonder how popular he is to people on Earth. You know, when you look at that image that was released not long ago, like, does he walk into the town? People recognize Hal Jordan, or maybe not, because people would recognize Superman. But that's a whole other thing, a whole other rabbit hole I can get down into. But either way, yes, I will definitely say Hal Jordan's ring is older than Guy Gardner's. Plus, you know, even in like the very early comics, like John Stewart's origin, one of his origins, because we know comic book characters have redefining moments, you know, Jesus, like Wonder Woman, and you know, we're talking about her, and even Donna Troy. It gets messy when you get to that. I can't even keep it straight in my head. But John Stewart, what you have to remember is Guy Gardner was actually a substitute lantern for Hal Jordan, but he got injured. I believe he got hit by a car or something like that. It was all good, kind of, but you know, the Guardians kind of went to Hal and were just like, hey man, Guy's kind of, you know, he's a bit stitched up right now, so we need to find you a new substitute. You know, like, and Hal's like, you know what, I agree. Like, you know, just if I ever kind of, like, something ever happens to me, I need to like have somebody maybe that I've trained up, or like somebody who, you know, is worthy of a lantern ring and is good and I approve of, to be filling my spot, right? So the Guardians inform Hal that they've been keeping an eye on this guy called John Stewart ever since he was young, really. And initially Hal, and I think this could actually, you know, I really do feel like Gunn, like in the older comics, going more into Silver Age inspirations. He's being inspired by all things, but you can tell there's a lot of older comic stuff being influenced. I really feel like, I know I'm kind of already going all over the place here, that the initial kind of relationship Hal and John have, or Hal's uncertainty about John, thinking he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder and things like that, could play into the series. Because especially with the most recent description we got with the interview with Chris Mundy, as it says, Kyle Chandler plays Hal Jordan, a seasoned lantern approaching retirement, and Aaron Pierre plays John Stewart, the trainee who will replace him. Now, I found this very interesting because ever since seeing that photo, seeing that it looks as though, you know, John Stewart doesn't have his ring on. I've been doing a deep dive into the origins, like really making sure I have the information fresh into my head. And now you also have a trainee, but that trainee makes sense because, you know, you have this near retirement Hal Jordan who is looking to probably hand the mantle over, but might not be, as per similar one of the influences or things they could adapt to that comic book origin. When he's told by a Guardian or something about this John Stewart, he might be a bit like, really? This guy is the one you want to trust with the power ring? You know, one of the finest weapons ever devised. But long story short, by the way, Hal Jordan obviously becomes quite impressed with John Stewart. So, getting back on track here, I do feel like they might draw a lot from that. Going back to the ring thing, I agree that John Stewart isn't wearing the ring there. Now, in that old comic book, when taking him on as a trainee or a new substitute, because Guy Gardner was somewhat left out in the lurch after his accident, they just kind of like, they jump into just already giving him a power ring. So I don't know if they're going to adapt that, because they don't really explain, but you could argue an artificial ring or something like that, a ring that's been created, could be given to John Stewart in the meantime, similar to that comic book that I'm talking about and maybe that you're seeing on screen. But at the same time, you know, he's being described as a trainee, as per the reports. Hal Jordan, a seasoned lantern approaching retirement, maybe he's on this one last mission kind of thing. He's reluctantly agreed to train John Stewart. They're a bit, tense at first, but they become bonded over the course of the episodes and this murder investigation. But surely he will have to have some kind of ring, because he can't not be protected. Surely you're not just going to rely on Hal Jordan's constructs the whole time. Like, you need to have John have his own ring, surely. And another thing is, I know there's other variations of origins. This is what I mean. Like, the Guardians have tested John through sending a freaking manhunter there, and he's defeated them. So they were like, see, he proved himself. We knew he would. And then boom, gets the ring. Who knows what they're going to go with? But I am really vibing the comic book, like some of the influences from that comic book that I've been talking about, where this whole trainee description thing for Lanterns is basically the comic book version of how he was a backup to Hal Jordan, and that's going to be maybe the initial foundation. And maybe they do have a ring for him, but he's just not wearing it in this photo. I don't know. That's an interesting thing as well. Maybe they're going into this town, and this is a part of him in his very early days, and Hal, as a mentor, this is literally going back to some of the old influences, gives him a ring as a result. Not his own ring, but a different ring. But I've been talking way too long about that one. I've been really enjoying looking into old comic books that they could be using to inspire the Lantern series, and kind of, even though it's based on one image, look into what they could be doing, especially based off of the descriptions we've been given. And also just the castings. Lantern Legend, older Hal Jordan, trainee, rookie, John Stewart. Looks like the backup Lantern to me-esque storyline influence. Let me know, to any major Lantern heads over there, what you think they could be doing. So, up next from Agent Llama prop, in Gunn's update about Brave and the Bold, he mentions he's working very close with the writer, who he is yet to name. He also said recently that he's been writing his next project. Do you believe that James Gunn is the writer of Brave and the Bold, and he's keeping it a secret for now? So when I first heard that, I think I fluctuated a bit in my opinions. I felt like, yeah, this could be a bit of a white lie in how, the whole idea, or what did he say? Not to put pressure on the guy, on the writer. That's why they didn't want to name him. Could be that, obviously, with James Gunn having enough pressure, scrutiny about him being the CEO of DC Studios, the way things are being handled, the way Superman's being handled, the look at Superman, it must be relentless. Does he really need the pressure of people knowing that he's now writing and, directing the next Batman movie? Well, for the DCU. Probably not. Now, what he was happy to say publicly is that he's basically the driving force behind it. He said that people know Batman's very important to me. If you didn't already know, James Gunn has said in the past that Batman is his favorite comic book character. He's got a lot of favorites, but that's his kind of right up there. So that's why he's working very close, apparently. And he could be co-writing it, by the way. But James did say that his next thing is his next directing thing. What put me off the idea of him directing Brave and the Bold and writing it, even though he could still be co-writing it. I mean, it's going to be... He may as well be co-writing it, even if he's not writing it, if he's working that close and somewhat dictating ideas on what the writer is writing, and which isn't unusual. It's like Kevin Feige. You would have writers in the MCU, but they need to follow Kevin Feige's overarching plan for where things go with the story and the characters. So that could be just what Gunn's doing with Brave and the Bold, obviously. But he said that it's connected to Superman, what he's writing next. And I wouldn't say that Batman, the Brave and the Bold, which is a Batman and Son movie, really, is really connected to Superman. Sure, I completely understand the cope, or should I say the white lie idea of Gunn really being the one to write Brave and the Bold. But for that reason, I'm going to put it to the wayside for now, and I think what he could really be writing and directing for his next project that is related, Superman related, is one of a few things. As I've kind of teased earlier, it could either be A World's Finest, right? So let's explore option number one very briefly. And I understand that people will be like, really? That's like the DCEU doing Superman and then BVS. I mean, I totally can't deny that in on paper, but let's not pretend that it wouldn't be tonally a completely different movie. So there's World's Finest, somewhat of a sequel to Superman in a way, but maybe not. But, it's a way of tackling Batman, having him in the DCU sooner rather than later, perhaps. Option 2, if not World's Finest with option 1, is a Trinity movie. So not a fully fledged Justice League movie, but a Trinity movie. Why do just World's Finest? This is a way to address the Wonder Woman concerns, have the World's Finest movie, but hey, Diana's there as well. I don't know what you would do right from the top of my head, but that is completely plausible. So that's World's Finest, a Trinity project. Option 3 is actually, I've seen a few people talk about Justice League International. Justice League International is something that I think a lot of people have forgotten about for a while now, but we talked about it on the channel quite a lot, I would say, before the Superman trailer came out. Justice League International was quite a talking point in videos because I think, I might do a whole separate video about this at some point in time. But Justice League International is blatantly, like, there was a feeling of something like that coming in the future. Knowing that Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn, is coming in the future in the DCU in some way, shape, or form. We have Mr. Terrific there, Guy Gardner. We have characters that are a part of the Justice League International in the comics, right? We know that Maxwell Lord will be in something after, quite literally after Superman. That could be Booster Gold, because Booster Gold is actually still going pretty strong. A lot of people don't realize that. I think they think it's got roped in with the whole Waller Authority thing. Apparently, it's still going strong. It's just that the showrunner they originally had isn't so interested anymore. Fine, just get a different showrunner. But my point is, I could see Gunn having a lot of happy times writing this favorite project. It's been my favorite for months, actually. Somewhat connected to Superman. Guess how it could be connected to Superman? Some Superman characters, like Guy Gardner, being in his next project. So it's, as he says, connected. However, it's not a World's Finest or a Trinity project. It's connected through having some Superman characters recur, and it's, a Justice League International project where you have a much more ensemble-esque movie than Superman. And I know people are already calling Superman an ensemble. You get my point, though. This will be ensemble-esque. And, you could, guess what? Because it's Justice League International, you could have Batman in there. And Gunn really might be taking a stab at scenes that you're seeing on screen right now, where you literally have Batman, Guy Gardner, other characters like that. You could even have Batman punching Guy Gardner in the face. These are all very real comic books. And I do feel like Gunn could pull off the flamboyancy of a Justice League International team-up kind of ensemble movie with, yes, even the Dark Knight in it. And I think he would be having a great time with that. And this isn't something I considered. Like, I was just like everyone else thinking, yeah, maybe World's Finest, or initially Brave and the Bold. Maybe, you know what, something everyone keeps saying World's Finest, what if they actually did the Trinity? This could be a way to do Wonder Woman, as I said, also include her. But no, wait, I really like the more obscure suggestions from people where they're saying World's Finest. You bring in Maxwell Lord, you maybe bring in Booster Gold before his show. Maybe not, though. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure, man. But that really got me thinking. It really did. I can imagine that this could be what Gunn could be doing. And you might not see the vision. It might not interest you in a similar conversation to what we said earlier with some of the projects. But I do feel like a project like that could work very, very well. It can bring in even more characters. You can change up the Justice League International lineup, You absolutely can. You can bring in Blue Beetle, Shola Maduena back into live action. You can have Booster Gold in there. You can have Batman there. You can maintain Guy Gardner from Superman. I think a really awesome thing that people would love to see in this movie, or whatever it is. Yeah, I think he said it was a movie. Would be Martian Manhunter in that as well. I really do encourage you to ponder and think about that a bit more. And tell me that you couldn't imagine Gunn, not pursuing something like that. That would be really, really interesting. And also, I think it would be bold to do, no pun intended there, but to maybe do a Batman working with other people like this, which is very comic book accurate, but I wonder if it would rub people the wrong way because maybe they expect like a really dark, moody Batman story of some degree first. But what you need to remember is that Batman in the DCU is at the point of having a Bat family built up around him, as we know. We know that his son, Damian Wayne, is being brought in the... He's, like, that far ahead. I'm not saying he's an old man. Like, again, they can condense Robin training. They can do various things like that to make Batman more still mid-30s, 36-ish years old, closer to Corenswet Superman. But my point is... it wouldn't surprise me in terms of, in the Justice League International comic books, Batman's already been Batmaning for a while. Like, people know him. People respect him. Maybe some people don't, because that's why Guy gets punched in the face. But do you see what I mean? Where we're at in the DCU with this already established history, as Gunn says, metahumans have been around for a long time already, and maybe they're more of an issue today than they used to be. Batman would already be at that point, arguably, of being in the Justice League International. Now, however, having said all of this, ladies and gentlemen, it is important for me to bring up how Gunn did say how there isn't a Justice League ... yet. So that's another thing we all need to bear in mind when it comes to talking about things in the discussion series. In the DCU, there isn't a Justice League. Now, of course, you could dig down the rabbit hole there and be like, well, that doesn't mean there wasn't one before, or a rendition of it, like the Justice Society in World War II. But technically speaking, as far as we're aware, if we're to take this kind of bluntly, there hasn't been a Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman type, Justice League out there yet. Now, that culmination event would obviously bring the Justice League together. Like, what other bloody team-up would you go with? It would be a league. However, there could be like a Justice League International. As what I've said for the longest time, I like to use the word precursor. It's like a precursor to something, like, because you've already got that in minimal ways already. You've got Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific working together under Lord Tech. Now, the closer we get to Booster Gold, if that's still being pursued, and, whatever Gunn could be writing right now, let's, just hypothetically assume that it is a Justice League International type project, this could be branching the way forward for more of a, you seek out, and it might be a part of the storytelling, the imperfections of that group, and, like, they become a bigger and better refined group like the Justice League. The thing about it being connected to Superman, obviously, that means it wouldn't really include Superman himself. Now, Superman has kind of popped up in Justice League International when he's really needed, or, like, even to be just saying to Batman, like, yeah, I'm not joining. I'm too busy, bro. But that's why I'm saying the connections would be such that, some characters would be maintained. But another thing is, Gunn can change things. He can really change things. He could make Superman a part of it. Like, why not? Like, I know that's not too comic book accurate, but adaptions don't copy and paste. And I'm sure as long as you maintain, like, big baselines or important things about the comic books, that's what matters most. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts on that. What Gunn could be writing, I could be completely wrong about. And I'm not saying that it is Justice League International, but I don't think we should just automatically think, oh, yes, he's writing Brave and the Bold, or, like, World's Finest. It could be, by the way. It really could be. Would love that. I just a note on World's Finest. Gunn, having just written Superman, are you telling me that his favorite character, Batman, he's not going to not want to write, if the next project could be something like World's Finest and it's connected to the Superman movie, and let's just entertain that it is World's... You're telling me that he wouldn't make it World's... Like, that does sound really kind of... The more you start conspiring in your head, like, this could be true. Yeah. Maybe it is. Gunn might not be able to resist doing that, but I can also imagine him being like, I could do a Batman project with Justice League International, and maybe bringing Corenswet a little bit here and there, but maybe bring over Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Blue Beetle, Martian Manhunter, like, if we're lucky, Dr. Fate and other characters like that into the Justice League International. I think it is one of these things, though, surely. Let me know if you think it's one of these three or something else completely different. Now, Shori Lingala 1138 says, what concludes a chapter of the DCU? Is it determined by the amount of movies and shows put out, or the number of years until a new chapter begins? You would have to think it is maybe story, but then again, Gunn said something recently about this, which kind of made it sound like the chapter title thing isn't so important. And this is what is going around a bit as well recently, is some confusion, because after the DC refresher instead of it being called an 8 to 10 year plan, this statement of a 6-year plan was put out there. And I am wondering if it's being somewhat misconstrued, or somewhat misunderstood by fans, and I completely understand how that can be seen that way. So as Variety report here, to that end, Gunn said that he has mapped out a roughly 6-year plan to tell a wider story that would result in a culminating project akin to Marvel's Avengers movies. Though he still insists that each individual project works as its own thing, it isn't like they're chapters of an overall story, he continued. They're characters that are part of an overall story. Okay, so they say 6-year plan there. Does that, this is what I mean of what could be maybe misunderstood by us. So is this 6 years the end of chapter 1? So there is still a 8 to 10 year plan, and that goes into chapter 2, because it could just be such that the first 6 years are fully mapped out to roughly tell this overarching plan and wider story that would culminate in that event, but there's still a chapter 2 after chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. I feel like this is the stuff that they should have followed up on. And a reporter should have said, wasn't it an 8 to 10 year plan? And then he could have replied saying, oh well, that's the long but for now we've got 6 years fully mapped out that we're comfortable with, we've refined. But yeah, obviously DC can easily go on to a 8 to 10 year plus plan, indefinitely, really, so long as the success is maintained. There's no way that I believe 6 years from now in 2031 that the DCU, if successful, would be over, especially when you take into account Brave and the Bold might be a couple to 3 years away, 2028, if the Batman Part 2 is coming out and they don't mess around with anything there. What's going on with the Wonder Woman project? I know we talked about that already, but there's lots of other things like Swamp Thing. You've got James Mangold, and I know people were asking about that in the community post for this video. It's such that he's done a complete unknown. Now he's going to probably go on to the Dawn of the Jedi. It's going to take a bit of time, obviously, and then Swamp Thing will come. You've got a lot for the back half, and then God knows when Anna Nogueira's Teen Titans movie will truly be ready to go. That could be another out of left field project like Clayface. Hey, the script was ready, or Supergirl, more accurately here, because she also wrote that treatment for that movie. I don't know. This is some of the stuff that I do find a bit frustrating, where I appreciate that there's been refinements, and I will say it's refined. Some people are saying it's a downgraded slate or whatever. I wouldn't say that. I do think along the way, in any situation, no matter how qualified you are, nothing is ever going to go truly according to plan. And before anyone says, well, you shouldn't announce things that you're not going to... no matter what, if you're kicking off a new universe, I don't blame them for doing the January 2023 thing, a rough roadmap that they're mostly going to stick to. The only thing that is on the side for now that they're figuring out is Waller and the Authority. And the Authority has had more issues, whereas Waller's had a couple of setbacks. Doesn't mean they're not still pursuing Waller. The Authority, though, that could be remade into an animated movie, as we've discussed. But as far as everything else, it's still mostly the same. And, Swamp Thing should still be coming out, but obviously they need to wait on James Mangold. And it's the kind of project like Clayface where Swamp Thing can wait because it's an individual story about Swamp Thing, although it's in this larger connected universe. They don't need to move on from him directing it because that project can wait, whereas Booster Gold, apparently that showrunner may have lost interest and they needed to pivot away because they probably want to pursue Booster Gold sooner rather than later, unlike Swamp Thing where they can wait. And who knows, the whole Booster Gold thing with them pivoting and going to someone new because they said that's going strong. Literally, that's the latest update on Booster Gold. Despite that, because they might want Booster Gold and what we were talking about earlier with this Justice League International thing. Who knows? I don't know. Obviously, that's me adding fact into conjecture, but you do start to connect the dots a little bit, maybe. Back to my point, out of the refining, slate refresher, refinements stuff, I feel like there should have been more clarity on other things. Absolutely. They should have a better idea or more of a somewhat clearer communication about certain things than what they did have. I will absolutely say that. At this point, I don't know what concludes the chapter of the DCU. I would have said a mapped out plan per chapter that culminates in some kind of event. And then you move on to chapter 2, blah, 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 whatever it will be called. And then there's an event at the end of a series of projects with the overarching story with that as well. Because I would like to remind everyone that the whole chapter 2 thing wasn't an assumption with regards to the 8 to 10 year plan. There's literally a quote from James Gunn right here saying, "We're not making it up as we go along. The 8 to 10 year plan is 2 chapters. And there's an ending to our basic story that we tell there. But it's not the ending of the universe." So we can actually take some of what he said in the latter there to still be maintained today. You could look at it as it's still an 8 to 10 year plan, but they've mapped out just 6 years. You could say it's no longer an 8 to 10 year plan and it's just a 6-year plan, and there is a basic ending to that story. But what I said earlier is what he's saying here. You know, it's not the ending of the universe. They'll still continue in the same way. Once upon a time, we would have been wondering what happens after Endgame and Infinity War and stuff, but they're still going, you know, to Secret Wars and Doomsday and stuff like that. But that is everything I'm going to get into for this video. I know, I don't get through nearly as many questions as I would like to because I ramble for so long about the questions I do choose. And I say that because, by the way, I have so many more screenshots. But I'd like to think that the questions I still chose to talk that long about were for a reason. And, you know, I feel like we still covered some meaty stuff and got into some ideas and, you know, ultimately speculation, but stuff that could be coming to fruition rather one day. And just ideas that do need to be thought about now after that DCU refresher. And again, I don't know if I included Future Boba or not in terms of whatever else may have transpired and how long this video is, but I am looking forward to do more of these. I think the next one of these DCU discussion series will be, like, about the whole DCU, that is, will potentially be after the Superman official trailer, because we've obviously got CinemaCon coming very soon, and that is when I expect that Superman official trailer to drop. But until next time, guys, would really appreciate a like on this video. If you did enjoy it, consider subscribing for more content like this. I will be back soon towards the end of March when you're seeing this. I know it's a while, but there are other videos going up, and then we'll be back to business as usual, just in case I am missing out on anything because I'm not doing news roundups as of when you're seeing this right now. But I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll see you guys very soon. I'm going to go hang out somewhere in Florida right now, I assume. And I'll see you next time, guys.